Ubaldo Arcaya was in San Antonio, Texas yesterday, along with 50 other Venezuelan migrants. Today, he's in Martha's Vineyard. When you got off the plane, I asked him, what did you think of this place? Beautiful, gorgeous, he says. The people are very friendly. He says in Texas, he was promised help if he got on the plane. No idea where he was going. There were three options, he says: Washington, Utah, here in Massachusetts, whatever was available. The plane left and brought us here. It's a tactic we've seen in Texas, Arizona, and now Florida. Republican governors shipping migrants to so-called sanctuary cities and states with little to no notice.
There's no low that these people will go. They'll keep going lower and lower, and they're willing to use humans, children, women, families, as political pawns for their own gain. It is depraved, it is evil, it is wrong, but what makes America great is what we see here today, which is an island community and a state in Massachusetts is coming together to support the people here.
Arcaya, a 27-year-old mechanic from Venezuela, says he's been welcomed with food and new clothes here on the island. He tells us he made a difficult month-and-a-half-long journey for liberty, democracy, and the promise of America. When you step on American soil, you feel at ease that you're here and well protected. You lose the stress of the journey we had to go through in 7 countries. Very stressful across all of Central America. This parish house bustling with activity, volunteers and organizers working since yesterday to provide food, shelter, and immigration services.
We've got the bodies to do this. The biggest problem was the short notice, and that was obviously intentional.
Just 20 minutes notice, says the airport manager, a deliberate move by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who is taking credit for the surprise trip.
Our message to them is we are not a sanctuary state, and it's better to be able to go to a sanctuary jurisdiction. And yes, we will help facilitate that transport for you to be able to go to greener pastures.
But that message not sitting well with officials here in Martha's Vineyard.
We're going to come together and support whoever shows up here. And we're going to make sure that people have the food, water, and shelter that they need. You know, Ron DeSantis and Republicans might want to play political games with people's lives. I believe that's incredibly inhumane to be using women and children and families as a political pawn.
Now, what's truly bizarre about the situation is that Ron DeSantis is Venezuelans and his dislike of the government there. What's bizarre is all of these immigrants came from Texas, and it appears only the planes were provided by Florida specifically to bring them here. And as you mentioned, within hours, those buses at the vice president's residence in D.C. But look, whatever happens here in Martha's Vineyard, to say they can handle the 50 that are here now, that they are getting on it, and they believe that if there are more planes that come, they'll be ready for it. Jake?
All right, Miguel Marquez, thanks so much. At first, officials on Martha's Vineyard were unsure who sent the planes of these migrants, but Florida Governor DeSantis quickly took credit, saying states like Massachusetts, New York, and California will better facilitate the care of these individuals through their designation as sanctuary states and support for the Biden administration's open border policies. Let's bring in CNN reporter and expert of Florida politics, Steve Cottorno. Steve, the Governor DeSantis has big political ambitions. Every move he makes seems to be carefully calculated and thought out. What does he gain from this?
You're right. This wasn't something that he hatched overnight. In fact, he's actually been quite publicly plotting this in the public eye for months now. He has threatened to ship migrants to anywhere that might give Democrats heartburn. He has said Martha's Vineyard. He has even said the president's home state of Delaware. So policy-wise, this is something he has consistently said for a while. Politically, this checks a lot of boxes for him. It gets his base really excited. It's an issue that they care about. It causes a lot of anguish and outrage among Democrats, which scores a lot of points in today's Republican Party. And, you know, it gets media coverage. And that is a formula that he has used time and time again to get at the forefront of these issues that are most animating GOP voters.
So some GOP voters in Florida are Venezuelan Americans. That's kind of like a growing force in Florida politics, as I don't need to tell you. A lot of these migrants are Venezuelans. Might there be any risk of any backfire on Governor DeSantis?
Jake, it's a great question because The governor has been a hardliner on immigration issues basically since he took office, and it really hasn't hurt him too much with the Latino and Hispanic populations that make up such a large part of the voting base there. But one step back a second, the Venezuelan population is huge in Florida. It's a large, half of the Venezuelans that live in the United States actually live in Florida. In fact, 100,000 live in the Miami area alone. And many of them vote. In fact, many of them actually vote Republicans. A lot of them were Trump supporters in 2020. You know, they actually thought that he was doing a good job of standing up to Maduro, you know, the dictator who runs Venezuela. So if their political calculus changes, you know, you and I both know a lot of races in Florida are won and lost on the margins. And already we're seeing Venezuelan leaders down in Florida. They are holding a press conference today where they were expressing their outrage at this decision. If this moves the dial at all, it could be trouble for him.
Yeah, I mean, because these are, I'm assuming, victims of Maduro.
Right.
Victims of him. All right, Steve Cantora, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Joining us now to discuss, Democratic Congressman Vicente Gonzalez of Texas. Congressman, Governor DeSantis and your governor, Texas Governor Abbott, sent these migrants with no heads up to officials in Martha's Vineyard or D.C., no heads up to anybody who might care for them, provide them with food, health care. We see a lot of kids in these pictures. What's your response to this? Is this a good way to protest the country's failing immigration policies?
Clearly tragic, and it's just a manifestation of DeSantis playing monkey see, monkey do with our governor. And you know, we have a handful of right-wing nutjob governors that are manifesting themselves in this way and feeding more red meat to their base and alienating their middle-of-the-road Chamber of Commerce Republicans. But in states like ours, like in Texas, where we already have a massive labor shortage, we're using tens of millions of dollars of taxpayer dollars to export people. And as in this case, as you just mentioned, these are Venezuelans who are broken, who are coming from a communist dictatorship, much like the Venezuelans and Cubans in southern Florida who are watching this and probably in disgust, regardless of how they may feel politically, of what party they follow. These people are coming from a communist dictatorship. They made it to our country, and normally we take care of these people. We are good Americans that promote democracy around the world, and we're shutting the door on others that are suffering in dictatorships as in Venezuela and Cuba and other countries around the world when we're sending this message to the world. It's shameful.
Governor DeSantis and Governor Abbott say that they feel compelled to do this, to bring attention to this issue and to call on the Biden administration and Congress to take action to highlight the irresponsibility of sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. What's your response to that?
We're talking about communist dictatorships that these are Venezuelans who came from a Maduro dictatorship. I think that's something they're going to have trouble explaining to Cubans and Nicaraguans and Venezuelans in southern Florida who also fled the same type of dictatorship, maybe in different conditions, but in their heart, they know that what's happening now is wrong, and that's not who America is, and we never have been. So this is a new radical right wing within the Republican Party that is showing this new face to our country and to the world, and it's really shameful.
Congress hasn't passed sweeping immigration reform since Reagan was president. It does seem like theoretically there should be a compromise that includes humanity and also border security. What would you like to see passed?
Absolutely. I just filed a bill called the Safe Zone Act. And what the Safe Zone Act does, it creates a place on the border of Guatemala and Mexico for asylum seekers to show up at that juncture instead of having to make it all the way to our southern border. It would take the pressure off our border. It would remove the criminal element or the cartel element from hijacking these migrants. They pay $5,000 to $8,000 per head to get to my southern border. Last year we calculated they made about $5 billion. This is the only true comprehensive border plan that would bring long-term solutions, and we hope that we can get bipartisan support. This is not a show business type of bill. This is something I took the first and only bipartisan group of members of Congress to our border to see what was happening. During the Trump administration, Dems used to go down there and point the finger at children in cages. Now we have Republicans going down there every week for political ploys to take photos of migrants that are crossing the border and blaming Biden for it. We need to come together with a comprehensive idea of what could bring long-term solutions. Clearly, we need an immigration plan that works, but the asylum system that we have right now isn't functioning at its best, and I think we can make it safer, more humane. we shouldn't have to force asylum seekers to make a 1,500-mile trek to our southern border and pay thousands of dollars to cartels.